Hey guys, and welcome to day 2 and my countdown to Game of Thrones. We are almost there, and I did want to make a list basically talking about the thing that a lot of people think of when they think of Game of Thrones, and that is really good death scenes. So this is a couple of little stipulations for this list is first, I did not include direwolves or any animal on the death scenes list, honestly, just to make it a little easier for myself. And the other thing is this is death scenes. This is not who my favorite characters are that died. That's not what this list is. If you or like significant characters. Now sometimes who they were made the scene better or made the scene worse or whatever and added to the specific scene, sure, but this is not like who I loved the most that has since passed. So if you're, a super beloved Dothraki and you died by a cut, you didn't make the cut, you know what I'm saying? All right, so just to clarify, this is very well done death scenes, not particular to the character necessarily. So guys, much like before, this was insanely impossible to narrow down to 10 scenes. It's ridiculous. I'm sure one scene that you really liked, I had a few that did not make the list that every time I see it, I cry or I cheer or I get chills and stuff. I mean, it's just what the show is very good at. So I'm sorry if your favorite death scene did not make the list, but yeah, let's just get into number 10. So number 10 is Viserys. I feel like, I hope I said that correctly, but I feel like the show, even though so many people have died since, but I feel like he was kind of the first huge death of the show, it still is such a satisfying death, even when you go back and watch it. I swear, you go back to season 1 and you go, oh yeah, I remember that guy. But the fact that, he demanded his crown and Drogo gave him his crown, I don't know, I honestly just think that it still stands up to this day of being one of the more satisfying deaths of the show. Number 9 on this list, you guys are, I feel like, are not going to agree with, but every time I get chills, every time I can't take it, and that is Grenn during the battle at the wall. There's so many, and we don't actually see it, but it doesn't matter. It's just, I feel like it's such a triumphant moment. And I really liked Grenn. And I know at the Battle at the Wall, I think more people were upset either that Pip died or Ygritte probably or whatever. But that scene when they're reciting their vows, the giants coming towards them and, they are going to hold the gate no matter what. And to see that they did, and they died in the process, I'm getting emotional. I'm not even kidding. This scene means I think it's one of the most underrated death scenes in the show. I'm sure you don't agree, but it's just, yeah, I loved Grenn, and I thought that just that whole scene was really well done. Number 8 on this list is Jon Snow. He had to make the list, right? Because, I mean, I was like, well, he came back, but he still died. And that scene was still very significant and a memorable scene. So I had to include it. He, basically seeing just traitor and everyone stabbing him saying for the wall. Oh my God, it was infuriating. I feel like, Jon's done so much for the Night's Watch, so much for, people. And I think that that's why a lot of people back him to be the one to be on the throne at the end, of the audience, is because he's done so much for all people, not just his people. And I think that that's really important. And so the fact that they just all decided to stab him to death was really very tragic. Number 7 on this list is Ned Stark. It still holds up with shock value. I mean, even if you show like a friend Game of Thrones, assuming they haven't heard about what happens to Ned or anything like that, it's still shocking. He's the main character. We're following him. We're following him for like the first, you know, whole season, and we are just sitting there rooting for him to finally kind of get justice. He's an honorable man, he's a brave man, and it's kind of really set the tone of the entire show that the guy that, you know, on paper is supposed to prevail at the end of it all just gets his head chopped off. Number 6 on the list is Ramsay. Like I said, there are death scenes that are horrible, that make us cry. There are death scenes that make us cheer, make us so happy. And Ramsay was definitely one of those. The fact that it was even Sansa that got her revenge made it all the more sweet. You know, it just made it absolutely the best. And the fact that he was eaten by his own hounds, I mean, karma, really. I mean, I feel like the ending of the Battle of the Bastards is just a whole lot of karma in those scenes. And you know, it was just after everything that he has done, but also specifically has done to her. I mean, it's one of the most satisfying scenes ever. Ever. Number 5 on the list is, along the absolute same lines, Joffrey. I put Joffrey higher. I had a really hard time. I was looking at Joffrey and Ramsay and I was like, I don't know, who was I more glad that they died? I don't know. I put Joffrey a little bit higher. I feel like he was such a little shit that I wanted to see die a lot. He did a lot. I don't know, he's the OG little shit of the show, you know what I mean? He's the original little shit. Let's pay him some due respects. But I think the whole episode is literally reminding us why we hate Joffrey so much. He's terrorizing Tyrion. He's doing this awful, like, play where everybody's seeing people that they've loved, even the woman that he married, die, and it's just the most awkward and horrible. And like the whole time I feel like the show did a really great job of reminding us all why we hate him so much. I mean, not many of us needed any reminding, but that made it all the more satisfying when he starts to choke and everyone is losing their mind, like, oh my god, is he actually gonna die? This is how he's gonna die. I think because it's kind of unexpected and he was poisoned, as opposed to maybe he was, not that he would ever go out into battle, but there's nobody coming to like specifically kill him with a sword or something, made it even more like it kind of surprised us, came out of nowhere, and we were very grateful for it. Number 4 on the list is Oberyn Martell. This is one of those things, I mean, Oberyn was an amazing character. Out of, you know, the characters who were only in like one season and not a ton of episodes, he really kind of nailed his part and is a fan favorite. But this is kind of, I feel like, the sheer importance of how great a scene could be even if a character hasn't been around all that often, and how this, like a death scene, can really be pulled off very well. There was a lot riding on this trial by combat, and I think everyone was rooting for Oberyn to finally get his revenge. You know, who wouldn't be rooting for him to do that? And the fact that he did best the mountain, you know, and God, just don't get too caught. Literally, when I was watching it the first time, and you see Oberyn say, "Who gave you the order?" Like, and pointing at Tywin, I was like, oh my God, he's gonna shoot a spear into Tywin's. Like, I thought that this is how we were gonna lose Tywin, you know, and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna like fucking go ham now. And that wasn't the case. And, you know, just like always, Game of Thrones just takes, you know, the underdog and smashes his head in. It wasn't pretty. It was really gross. So, I mean, that also, gross factor, you probably win of Game of Thrones deaths. Number 3 on this list is Shireen. Sweet, sweet Shireen. She's my girl. I loved her in Davos. I just think that she was just the sweetest thing on the planet. And talk about tragic. Absolutely. I'm gonna get emotional. This was probably one of the worst deaths for me. Obviously, it's on my list and pretty high up. I can't get like her screams out of my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really terrible and solidified my not so liking of Stannis. And I'm not trying to rehash that. A lot of people who like Stannis. It's like, I get it. We all have favorites. We all don't like certain people. But I can't. I already didn't like him. So you can imagine how much I didn't like him after that. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so horrible to watch it and to see, you know, and to see the mom kind of like change her mind, like after it started happening. And I couldn't, I mean, I gotta say, I'm probably happy in a sense. Like, we all kind of say, I wish that Davos was there, right? Because he would have stopped it. Would he? I mean, that's a lot of men. I don't know. I mean, you can let me know in the comments if you how that you think that would have gone if Davos was there, or he would have talked Stannis out of it, or maybe the men like wouldn't have held him back, like if Stannis ordered them to, because they're kind of horrified at what they're seeing. I don't know. But I'm not entirely sure if it was the case that he was there. I'm not entirely sure I would want to watch Davos see that. You know what I'm saying? I think it would have made it even more horrifying than it already was. Number 2 on this list is, and I feel like a lot of you came into this list probably knowing what the top 2 were, and I'm going to kind of talk about why one is a little bit higher than the other, but both, I mean, could really be tied for first of kind of very significant death scenes in Game of Thrones. And number 2 is Hodor, Hold the Door. And this, you know, to me was just, it was a very intense scene. It was brilliant, brilliantly done. I don't know the whole, how long the writers maybe knew that that's the way that Hodor would end and things like that, but it was just such a great way of explaining the name. Shout out also to the kid actor that played young Hodor. He did a phenomenal job. Not, you know, I think they were just absolutely amazing. And once you figure it out and you just go, oh my God, that's his name, it's what he has to do, and this is his death, it makes it all the more tragic. Hodor was a beloved character. Hodor was a loyal character. Hodor was a sweet character. He never really ever wanted to hurt anybody, you know what I mean? Like, anytime he did, kind of Bran took over him, and there was something so very beautiful about his character, and to see him go the way he did, being a hero, like a hero. I'm getting emotional talking about it. It was it was a very touching scene. But yeah, these top 2 are pretty much, I mean, tied with each other of brilliance in very, very different ways. Yeah, so that's number 2. And number 1 on the list is The Red Wedding. Why The Red Wedding is number 1 on the list? It's television history, I think. I mean, and there's a lot of people I remember after Hold the Door aired and they said this trumps The Red Wedding. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand, because the scene was beautiful and very well shot and stuff like that. With the Red Wedding, I had to put it at #1 because it was, I feel like, one of the most shocking events in TV history. I think everybody was rooting for Rob. Everybody, especially, here's the thing, we're all rooting for Ned, right? Most of us. And he gets his head chopped off, and you're like, all right, Rob, all right, let's go. You gotta avenge your father, and you're seeing him be very smart on the battlefield. Like, it's not, he didn't die, you know, the way that he died was just so grimy, you know what I mean? It was so horrible to watch that's how you took out Robb Stark, who, I really loved Robb, and I thought he was kind of a young guy who had a lot thrown at him, and he kind of took it and said, all right, let's go. And I liked that about him. And he probably didn't make the best decision with not marrying the Frey girl. Retrospect, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but I think I thought that he was doing very good at war. Just great at war. But he was doing a decent job. He had the upper hand, and for it to happen in this way, and to see all of the characters that died in that scene, you know, his wife and his unborn little Ned, his direwolf, which I hate watching the direwolves die. I hate watching that. We have, what, 2 left? All right, let's stick a Ghost, you better fucking, you know what I'm saying? Hold on, Ghost. If a dragon kills Ghost, I don't know why they would, but if they do, I'm over it. I'll like throw my camera across the room. Anyway, so sorry. Sidetrack. Sorry. So I absolutely think that this, you know, watching this horrible thing happen, watching Robb die in the like shadiest of ways, hearing the Lannisters send their regards. Oh God, it's just, it's a heart-wrenching moment. And props to Michelle. Michelle played the fuck out of that scene. I bow down, love her. And that scream that she lets out in the end, I mean, it's so chilling. It is so chilling. And you can tell that it is a mother just in pain. Like, oh my God. Like, I don't, absolutely amazing. Heart-wrenching, but amazing. And because of the shock value, because of how sick I felt after, that's #1. So, quick story. I'm going to tell you guys the story really, really quickly about me watching The Red Wedding for the first time. No, I did not read the books, and after a while, after I started recording my reactions, I never wanted to read the books because I just didn't, I think it makes the reactions better. So I get shit all the time for not reading the books, but that's why. It's like for your entertainment, so chill. So the story of me watching The Red Wedding goes like this. I was watching a season, I was marathoning a season of Downton Abbey. This is one of those times where we'll say Kevin was away. And I was watching a season of Downton Abbey and like binge watching and going crazy. I get to this episode where I felt like my heart was ripped out. There was a character death, and I'm not gonna say when or anything like that in case anybody does actually watch that in the future that hasn't seen it. But there was a very big character death, and I was like, oh God, like that was horrible. Oh my God, like I needed to get my mind off of it. And I was like, all right. Stupidly, I said, I'm gonna watch the next episode of Game of Thrones, maybe, hopefully feel better, whatever. And it was The Red Wedding. Needless to say, that night I could not stop crying. Was like, I got so fucked up that night. I just think that's a funny story. I don't know why I would watch Game of Thrones to feel better after seeing a death scene. I don't know. Listen, it wasn't my brightest moment. Yeah. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this list. I know that there are probably some favorite characters of mine that did not make this list, such as like Tywin, like I said, Drogo, I really liked. Yeah, there's just a ton of people who have died. Barristan almost made the list, like he just missed the cut. There's just like a ton of people that, you know, I think, but this was more about the death scenes than it was about, you know, the actual person that died. I hope that that makes sense. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!